Okay, I think we will get started. So hi, everybody. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Laura Nelson. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. A little bit of background. I'm Director of Marketing at Broadly.com, where we collaborate with local businesses, including veterinary professionals, on their online presence and client reviews. So every day I get to talk with practices just like yours on the topics of standing out online. So today we're going to talk about how you can stand out online for the purposes of attracting new clients, that is the type of clients that you want, so that you can create a new revenue stream and grow your practice. I'm really hoping to give you some concrete takeaways that you can put into practice as soon as the webinar ends. That's our goal today. So before we get started, just a few housekeeping items. I encourage you to submit questions using the GoToWebinar software, specifically in the questions panel. What does that look like? It is on your right side, about halfway down on the lower right. This is what it looks like. So feel free to chat using this feature. I'll answer as many questions as I can as we go along, but I'm also going to leave some time at the end for Q&A. So, if they don't come up during the webinar, I'm happy to address them at the end. Couple more things. I get a lot of people asking whether we're sharing the recording, and yes, we will be. So, please watch your email following the webinar for that. We'll be sending you the full session recording. Finally, follow us on Twitter at @GetBroadly. You can also reach me. Again, I'm Laura Nelson, directly at laura@broadly.com. I'll share that contact info with you again as the webinar ends. With that, again, thanks for joining me. Let's get started. So here you are. You've been practicing for maybe 15, 20 years or more. Maybe you have a huge client roster in your area, or alternatively, maybe you're just starting out. Maybe you're looking to land your first clients in the coming weeks and months. In either scenario, you have a staff, you have an office, you have insurance, you've got bills to pay, right? Whether you're a veteran or a newly minted doctor, you all know that the success of your practice hinges on your clientele. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, a lot of you will say referrals and word of mouth bring you the best clients. There probably isn't enough of that though, right? How do you drive more word of mouth? It all starts with your clients. Let's talk about who your clients are. This is your client. This is Elsie. As a marketer, I like to think of your client as a modern consumer. She's a typical modern consumer of 2017. So again, who is Elsie? She's married. She lives in Colorado Springs. She owns a house, has 2 kids, and has a family dog named Nellie. She works full-time as a school teacher. She's very involved in the PTA. She has 2 kids. She loves getting outside and doing things with her dog and her kids. So you might find that Elsie resembles you in many ways, or she certainly resembles your average client. Elsie's very well connected. What do I mean by that? If Elsie needs an answer to an everyday question, she goes to Google. If Elsie's looking for a restaurant, she starts with Yelp. If Elsie's booking a vacation, she doesn't do anything before she checks TripAdvisor. So the reality today is that the internet's now in our pockets. We no longer have to be tech savvy to utilize it in our everyday lives. So even if you don't think of yourself as being the most connected in this way, I assure you that most of your clients are, or most of the clients that you are trying to attract are. So when somebody like Elsie or you or I need to solve a problem and find a local business, whether that be a pediatric dentist for our kids, a roofer to repair a leak, or a trusted vet to care after our pets, we ask our friends for recommendations, or we may be turning to our smartphones or computers first. We're no longer reaching for the phone book. So, if we're not using the phone book, again, what are we doing? We're definitely going online. We're not alone. In fact, 80% of consumers are going online and using search engines like Google to find local information. Like modern consumers, like Elsie, we're all going online to solve our immediate problems. So let's take a look at how that plays out. You're familiar with this screen already, I know. So let's walk through the steps. From, again, the consumer point of view. To start, we turn to Google. We search on Google when we have a need or a problem we want solved. So, let's say we're looking for a vet in our area and we don't know of anyone for animal care. What comes up? When you do this type of search in Google, toward the top, you'll see a map with 3 choices. You've probably seen this before. We call this the Google 3-pack. You'll also see a bunch of links below this Google 3-pack. You might see some ads above it. So if you were to type in the category of your practice and the name of your city, hopefully you're showing up in this 3-pack or just below it. Many of your competitors certainly will be. So take a look at this example in Colorado Springs. There's a lot of competition in the area, but who are you going to choose? What stands out? There's a few things we learned by looking at this, and a few indicators that we have by the choices that are presented here first. If you're the typical modern consumer like Elsie, your eye is probably going to go to the second and third choice. You'll start your search with Bear Creek and High Plains. And why is that? They're getting higher reviews and what we call more social proof that they provide quality care, for their clients. So reviews really help differentiate that choice for local consumers. So what are these stars, right? And how do you get them? These are reviews written by Google users. These are the people who have Google accounts, like Gmail. You may be wondering, how do you get a client to go here and write you a review? It's hard, but it's not impossible. So these reviews are important to consumers. In fact, 88% of people are trusting these type of online reviews as much as they trust a word of mouth recommendation from friends. So, in other words, what you and I are learning about local businesses like yours on Google or on Yelp or on Facebook, that's just as important to us as what our friends are saying. So again, reviews matter to decisions like these, the decisions that Elsie and others are making in their everyday lives. So we've just established that consumers are definitely going online, which means that that's where you have to be also. Just as you had to be listed in the phone book maybe 15, 20 years ago, today you have to be accessible easily via a smartphone. So maybe you're thinking already, Laura, come on, I know that. That's why I'm here. I just want to know exactly what I have to do and how much it's going to cost me. So that's what we are going to talk about today. I do want to acknowledge the internet is complicated. The world is changing. And yes, you'll have to deal with Google and with Yelp and others. There are algorithms that determine search results, and we can't quite nail all of the specifics down. There's a slew of options when it comes to advertising online or paying various types of web consultants. But I believe and know that there are things that you can do to give yourself and your practice a powerful boost in a really cost-effective way. So a huge part of that is understanding this concept we're going to get into about getting your best clients to do some of the marketing for you. So it may seem odd to you from the outset, but we'll get to that in due time and talk about what that means in practice. But first, let's start with the most important pages and websites for your practice. So what are these? These are your Google business listing. This is your Yelp profile. It includes your Facebook business page. And it also includes your website too. All of these pages working together form a really strong foundation for your practice's online presence. You may be thinking, hey, I don't really read reviews. It doesn't matter. I want to underscore again, your clients are, and so are the clients that you're trying to attract. So it's more, if they get a recommendation from a friend, they're still going online to look you up and to learn more. So why these 4 pages? Nothing's going to rival Google, Facebook, Yelp in terms of being found in your area and being chosen by that type of client you're trying to attract. So the first thing you must do, if you haven't done it already, is to set up your Google business page. So let's start here. Let's talk Google. So most people are familiar with how to use Google, right? I walked through that example. It's pretty simple. However, if you're a veterinarian and trying to stand out online, the mechanics of Google, they're quite complex. The Google algorithm changes constantly. It's tough to keep up with those changes and feel like you're in control. However, there are things that you can do, things that you can control that will ensure that your practice looks great on a Google search. Let's take a look at an example. Right now, what you're looking at is your typical Google search result and listings. So we're going to focus on the Google listing on the right side for Jake's Animal Hospital. This is a Google listing. This appears when we conduct what we call a Google name search. In other words, if someone gets the name of your animal hospital, your practice, and puts it into Google, your listing should appear. This includes information about your practice, right? If you don't think you have one, it might look a little bit like this. Has a street photo of your location, maybe a little bit of information about your practice that Google is guessing is true, but it's generally a blank slate. So this is a free listing provided by Google to help connect consumers to local providers. It literally puts your practice on the map. If you want to dig deeper, into some of these elements. Again, this is what we call an unclaimed Google listing, but it does enable you to provide more information, about your practice and connects you to prospective clients in your area. So, for instance, you can add more photos, whether it's of, your office, your staff, some of your clients, some of your favorite pets, you can show them off. You can verify your address and phone number, make sure that Google has them correct and that your prospective clients can get in touch with you. You can suggest changes to Google's data, such as your practice hours. You can also show off your client reviews. You can see at the bottom that this particular listing doesn't have any reviews. So that's why it's noting that whoever's visiting this page has the opportunity to be the first to review it. So what I've outlined here are the opportunities where this practice can make a difference on their front doormat to Google. This is their front door. So let's take a look at an example where a practice has really taken time to do so. Now, this is what it looks like when you've claimed or optimized your Google listing. So check out Laguna Creek Veterinary Hospital. This is in Elk Grove, California. And let's look at this in detail. So note how the photos, additional information, and client reviews provide real context. So Laguna Creek Veterinary Hospital has added photos of their location, updated the branding. They generated 99 client reviews. They've offered prospective clients a reason to choose them. And this listing looks great. So I just want to touch upon the fact that they have 99 Google reviews. This is a fair amount. And I'm often asked by business owners, how many do you need? The answer to that question might really depend more on your competition and what their Google page looks like. So you might not need 99, or you may need more. If you're in a competitive area, that may very well be the case. Bottom line is, you're gonna need more than 4 or 5. And the reason for that is that the first couple of reviews, they're always suspect. We know they often come from family and friends. You'll need more than that from your real clients before you can really stand out and shine online. So keep that in mind and do a little digging on what your competitors and other practices in your area are looking like. Bottom line, from the consumer point of view, when I look at reviews like these, I trust when I'm learning about the client experience at this animal hospital. As I mentioned previously, Google's search algorithm isn't entirely known and it's constantly changing. However, we do know that Google values recent and relevant reviews. These are an important piece of the pie, that determines how your listing and how your website are showing up in that local search. So the updates I pointed out, these are the must-dos that make a difference between a business that stands out and one that is simply listed. So let me acknowledge I don't work for Google. I'm not here to plug it, but I'm just here to help you understand where your opportunities are to have a really great first impression. So this is a win. It's something you should be excited about. So if you don't have your Google listing set up today, that's the first thing that I want you to focus on next. That this practice is doing the right things to stand out and look good online. So let's shift gears for a moment and talk about Yelp. Who's got experience with Yelp? I'm going to wager that a lot of you do. I talk with all types of business owners all day long, including doctors like you. There's this common misconception that one must pay Yelp in order to have a strong profile. So I want to clarify that for you today. You can take advantage of your Yelp profile for free. So it's free to claim your page. It's free to provide a bio, photos, additional content on your page. It's free to add your hours, your address, your website, your contact info, how people can get in touch with you. You don't need to pay Yelp for any of these things. And you can't pay Yelp to get the part that matters the most, which is your client reviews. So let's dig a little deeper and see what that looks like. So remember, that's the reason people are going to Yelp in the first place, right? It's those client reviews. It is perhaps the most popular review site. And clients are going there to learn about that client experience, right? So just as I mentioned with the Google listing, it's critical that first you claim or take ownership of that page. So here's a good example of what that page looks like, once it's claimed and improved. And I'm going to use Laguna Creek again as my example. Let's walk through some of those most important elements on their page. First, your practice name and your star rating. Make sure it's right. Make sure your name is right and consistent across all of these public pages on the internet. And that rating, quite simply, understand how are your clients scoring their experience with you and with your staff. When prospective clients are looking you up, this is where their eyes are going first. Next, let's take a look at your practice contact info. As I mentioned, you can update this for free. So make sure that when prospective clients are looking you up, that they can get in touch with you easily. Get your address right, verify your phone number, and definitely add your website. Practice photos, and this is a fun one, another free aspect of a Yelp listing. Share pictures of your staff, show off your office, maybe some of your favorite furry clients. Yelpers love photos, so this is a great opportunity, to take advantage of, the fun aspects of your practice. Practice hours. Let your prospective clients know when you're open or on call. And I want to point out something important here. Yelp has a particular search filter where users can determine to contact businesses that are only open. So make sure that you're accurately representing when you're open and also when you're on call. I want to take you, I've shown you a few of the things that you can see, up front on a Yelp listing. But I also want to take you behind the scenes. This is what it looks like once you've claimed your Yelp listing and gone to your dashboard. So when you claim your listing, you get access to all of your page statistics. This is the initial dashboard that you'll see. So this includes a summary, of what's happening on your page, front and center. That's where you see activity feed and downward. It shows the number of visitors your listing is getting, each and every month. Pay attention to that. On the left side, you'll see a number of options. This is where you can update your business information, such as your hours, your website, add your photos. You can also see all of your reviews here as well. And I'll show you why that's important. This is the most important page, not only just to read all that great client feedback, but also respond to reviews. This is where you make it happen. So again, I talk with business owners all the time who have misconceptions about Yelp and the free things that you can do. But it's all right here, and it's available to you. This account owner, and this is broadly, by the way, we don't advertise on Yelp, and we don't need to, in order to take advantage, of all these great features. So I encourage you to do that as well if you're not doing it already. So next, let's talk about Facebook. You probably have a personal account already, and you might be wondering, well, how does an animal hospital effectively engage on a platform like Facebook? Facebook's for fantasy football. It's for keeping track of my kids. So where does my practice come in? So you'll definitely want a Facebook page for your practice. Not necessarily because potential clients are starting their search there today, but people will be talking about your practice. They'll be referring their friends and perhaps even checking into your location or rating it right here. So you'll want a place for all of those conversations to refer to. So as with Google and as with Yelp, every business can set up a page on Facebook for free. So a few things that I just want to point out that are similar to the other free pages. You can add photos. You can get client ratings. You can list your contact info. Again, important just to connect all of these pages to your practice website. You can take advantage of Facebook messaging. You can add your hours here as well. If you're an avid Facebook user, I encourage you to share your expertise with your clientele that are fans of your page. Feel free to do that. That's going above and beyond. And, if you have the bandwidth, you and your team, share your insights. But at fundamental level, do these basic things to build your presence and come alive, on your Facebook page. This is just another way to be present on Facebook, where your clients are hanging out and telling their friends about businesses that they love, including yours. So as a recap, we've covered some of the fundamentals on important consumer pages, like Google, like Yelp, like Facebook. As I've mentioned, all of these pages, if they're set up correctly, they're going to link right back to your website. Your website is still critical. This is your practice's home online. This is where you have full control over your story. This is where your prospective clients are going to go to learn even more about you, learn about your staff, learn about your services. So I want to take a few moments and walk through the most important elements of a strong practice website. First and foremost, make it easy for visitors to get in touch with you. As you can see in this example, photography makes a world of difference. Show off your office, show off your team, if you like. Show off some of your favorite clients as well. Perhaps most importantly, though, I cannot stress this enough. Make sure that your website is mobile friendly. So more than half of all Google searches are done on mobile devices. So if you're not sure that your website is mobile friendly, there's a simple tool on Google that'll let you know. And I want to share that link with you today. Search for Google mobile friendly test, or write this link down and visit that page. This is what it looks like. And all you have to do is type your domain name in to test whether your site is mobile friendly. Google will penalize websites that are not mobile friendly. What I mean by that is that they're not going to rank as highly in a local search, for veterinarian or for animal hospital in your area, as other sites that are mobile friendly. So I encourage you really to take charge of that. So let's dig deeper into some of the most important pages, on your website. First, talk about what your specialties are. What are your specialties and how are they going to help prospective clients? The best websites clearly and explicitly outline how you, the doctor, and your team are best qualified to help your clients and their pets. Next, talk about who you are. And this is one of the most important pages, and it's okay to tell your story here. Your story can go a long way to humanize your practice in the eyes of a potential client. So what we recommend that you do is include a photo of yourself or your staff so that your clients can put a face to your practice and begin building that trusted relationship. Next page, reviews or testimonials. This is the most important page on your website. This portion is crucial. So remember that stat I shared earlier. 88% of people are trusting online reviews written by other consumers as much as they are trusting recommendations from friends. So reviews will help you build trust. They provide that social proof that you are who you say you are, right? So share your great client testimonials and reviews on your website as well. So on the topic of reviews, interestingly enough, reviews are the common thread that all of these pages have in common. When we talk about Google, you really want to get reviews on Google as they'll help you be found. In terms of Yelp, you've got to get reviews on Yelp, as your profile is only as strong as your rating and the number of reviews that you have. On Facebook, you want to be able to enable your clients to rate and refer to your business on Facebook as well. And finally, you want to showcase these reviews on your website, because this is where prospective clients are headed to read more. So reviews really will make or break your practice. So at this point, you may be wondering, so how do I get reviews? How do I get real ones from real clients? So I referenced this earlier when I mentioned, how do you get your best clients to do your marketing for you? It's time to get proactive. So we want your feedback, very simple words. So what you need to do is create a system to thank your clients and ask about their experience. Are they satisfied with the service that you provided, or is there a lingering issue that you need to fix? You really won't know either until you ask. So this needs to be an automatic part of wrapping up an appointment. But I do want to pause here and acknowledge something. This can be scary. And if you haven't done it before, you may feel nervous to try. You may be thinking, what if I put an idea into their heads? What if they say something bad? What if I'm bothering them by asking? What I want to tell you today is that it doesn't matter. You have to do this anyways. You have to signal to your clients that you care. And the good news out of all of this is that if you're running an honest practice, then the majority of your clients are satisfied. And if you make it easy enough for them, you're going to start getting their 5-star feedback once you ask for it. So how does this all work in practice? You can follow up with your clients and ask for feedback in a few different ways, right? And here are a few of them. You can ask for feedback in person. You can call them on the phone at a later time, once the appointment has finished and they've gone home. You can send them an email or a text message. You could send something like a postcard or survey in the mail. The important thing really is to determine what works best for your practice, and perhaps ask yourself, which of these methods are your clients most likely to respond to? So let's talk about the advantages of each of these ways. Ask in person. So you've probably already experienced this scenario already, right? You've been asked about your dining experience. The server checks in on your table, asks how your meal is tasting, or the chef may make a cameo. In either scenario, you're put on the spot right then and there to let them know what you think. When you're in this scenario, think about it. What do you do? Do you give them honest feedback, or do you tell them what you think that they want to hear? If the chef hears great feedback from you and your party, what can he or she do about it? The good word, it can evaporate into thin air in this particular scenario. So think about this approach in the context of your own practice, and whether taking it upon yourself or asking your office staff to ask clients for feedback in person will do the job alone. There's some advantages to this approach. You're making eye contact, you're making the ask personal. However, the downside is that the client may not feel comfortable providing that feedback. He or she may be wanting to rush out of your office with their pet and move on with their day. They might not tell you everything that's on their mind, right then and there. So let's take a look at another option. You're probably familiar with paper feedback forms. Maybe you've been asking for feedback through a client survey in this way. It's incredibly common, especially in the medical field. But let me ask you this, how many of you actually complete these types of surveys after a personal medical visit? You may be familiar with this already, with the lengthy paper-based surveys that you receive in the mail after a visit. I just got one myself after a routine visit. I get them after every routine visit, though. I get that same exact survey. And unfortunately, I've not completed the survey once, despite the quality care that I've received. And I know I'm not alone. The issue with this is that surveys in general, they don't have a high engagement rate. They're impersonal, they're too long, and quite frankly, for most people, it's too big of an ask. So today, I want to challenge you to think about better ways. Even if your clients do engage with this kind of survey, the information does not translate to Google, to Facebook, to your testimonial page. It gives you important information, but it doesn't provide that social proof that you're trusted in your community. So let's consider a better way. Think about email. There's an advantage to email. It's inexpensive, it's immediate, but it's not too intrusive. So something like a simple thank you or an automated text that comes from you after an appointment with a simpler ask will be much easier for your clients to respond to. Using an electronic method like email allows you to actually include links to your Google or to your Yelp pages, making it much easier for your client to engage. You can't really do that with the paper survey, and it's more difficult to do with a phone call as well. So there are really effective ways to do this, and there's some ways that are less so. This is one of our specialties at Broadly, so we can talk about the specifics at a later date if you're interested. But what I want to underscore here really is by putting a system in place that works, you'll start to get reviews. And getting reviews means that you're going to start showing up higher in local search results and ultimately stand out online. That is the ultimate goal. But I want to circle back to that chef example for just a minute, because I do want to emphasize one thing here. I mentioned earlier that the good news evaporated into thin air. After all, you're having this one-on-one conversation with the chef, and unfortunately in that scenario, none of his prospective customers heard about your experience. But for this reason, I think it is important to make that ask personal when you're with the client, but it's best to finish that conversation electronically. So what I mean by that, what I mean in terms of your practice is you can tell your clients verbally, as they're checking out, that you'll be following up to ask how you did today for them and for their pets. But by following up electronically, what I mean by that is develop a system to follow up with that ask, by email, by text, so that great feedback can be gathered and it can be shared with many across those sites that matter the most to new clients, those new pet owners, in your area. Finally, I want to address the issue of negative feedback for a minute. You might know from experience, how much a negative review can hurt when it's from Yelp or Google. And when you can't get those taken down, even when they're false. It hurts when other potential clients see those reviews and see them as useful in their search. I want to emphasize something today. Hiding from them, this is not an option. So if you haven't seen your page, that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So doing nothing can lead to very few reviews in general. And many times it's the people that don't have something nice to say who are the first to run online and write a negative review. So ideally, when you're actively asking for feedback, you're getting any negative response privately or offline. So wouldn't that be a lot easier to address before it becomes a lasting part of your online reputation? So there's ways to do that, and that's part of our system as well. So again, happy to answer specifics on that at a later date. But the bottom line here is the best strategy to combat a negative review, really is to get more positive reviews. Those one-star reviews make a lot less and less of an impact when they're surrounded by loads of 4- and 5-star reviews from your happy clients. The goal at the end of the day is to become that 5-star practice. Be highly recommended from your happy clients on these public pages. There are fundamental things you can do, to ensure that your practice is showing up, where your clients are looking for you. This ensures you can show up, stand out online, means you can attract the type of clients that you want. You can charge appropriate prices for the services that your 5-star practice commands. And you can establish your practice as the premium choice in your area. So you need to be present and relevant online. So I hope that was useful and that it was clear that feedback and reviews are the currency of the internet today. So remember that stat I shared earlier. 88% of people are trusting those online reviews as much as personal referrals. Online reviews are that new word of mouth. As promised, I'm concluding with my contact info before we dive into questions. And a little bit of background on Broadly. We're not an advertising company, but what we've built is a system for generating online reviews and getting those positive reviews where they matter. We also keep the negative feedback offline and get that to you privately. So you can get back to your clients personally and we get the opportunity to make things right. So if you'd like to learn more, we can take a look at your pages and give you personalized feedback. It's worth a couple minutes of your time. But until then, I would love to take your questions, and I've gotten a few that I have not addressed through the webinar. So let's take care of a couple of those right now. And again, feel free to use the questions feature in the GoToWebinar panel. So I have one from Diane, and she's asking a specific question about Yelp, particularly around the Yelp filters. Why does Yelp filter my reviews and what can I do about it? That's a great question, Diane. If you're not familiar with how Yelp works, I'll provide a little bit of background. Yelp has an algorithm in place where the platform determines the value of different reviews, different contributions made by its users. The more one contributes to the Yelp community, the more valuable the platform sees, their contributions on each business page. However, that's not the only determining factor. Yelp is somewhat opaque in terms of sharing what their algorithm really is. So as a result, they have this system in place where they're filtering out, or they're not showing all of the reviews that a business is getting. And if you look at an example on a page, and maybe this is happening to your own page, you'll see that there is a link to what they call non-recommended reviews by other users. So what that means is that there are a select set of other reviews, potentially on your page that are not being displayed in the same way for Yelp. Why do they do this? Again, they feel like their user contributions are weighted differently, and that not all of them have the same trustworthiness. And what can you do about it? Great question. Unfortunately, you don't have much sway in terms of displaying them on Yelp. You can, though, repurpose them and source them back to Yelp in other places. You can use Yelp widgets. You can use them on your marketing material. If your practice is rated highly by Yelp, you can also take advantage of some of the materials they send in terms of the stickers that people love us on Yelp, etc. But there's not much we can do in terms of getting those non-recommended ratings to display, with the rest of them on your page. Another question from Demi. Pertaining to Facebook, we are active on our page, but how often is too often when updating photos? We try to upload at least a few pictures a day, but is that overkill? Great question. Facebook has its own algorithm in place where they're actually only sharing a select few posts with their users. And what I mean by that is that basically around low single digits, like say 2 to 5%, depending on which source you're looking at, of your fans are actually seeing your posts. So organically, you're not going to attract a lot of impressions by posting photos alone. And if you're doing that already every day, once a day should be plenty for you. Don't feel like you have to be doing that all throughout the day, because if you're only capturing 2 to 5% of your audience organically, then you're not getting a lot of use, out of that particular aspect of the platform. What I will say, though, is that if you take advantage of some of their other tools, you can elect to promote Yelp posts and put a little money behind the campaigns and reach a larger audience within your community. I would recommend it if that's something that you're interested in testing and trying out to reach a larger audience in terms of boosting your likes or boosting your impressions on a post. But back to the original questions, it's great if you're doing it every day, and I actually don't think you have to do it every day to show that you're active and engaged. So I would not invest a ton of time in that area where you may see greater returns in other departments. I got a question from Terry about negative reviews. What should I do about negative reviews? Do you recommend that I respond? Definitely. Definitely recommend that you respond to negative reviews. And there's a very nuanced approach you should take with this. Definitely acknowledge where the client is coming from, and as soon as you can, take that situation offline. It's not worth getting into a public debate with your clients. You're not going to lose you're not going to win in the public eye. If people see exchange back and forth, it will be tough to win the PR battle, I guess is what I'm saying. So what I do recommend is to reach out to that client privately, post your contact info as well, and make a commitment to learn more about the situation and to make things right. Often I hear from businesses who hear from clients that selected their business based on the speed of their response and the professionalism with which they handle the negative review. So it is not a lost cause if you get one, but clients do notice whether you're responding and how. So definitely recommend you get proactive on that front. I think I have just one more question, and this is from Elena. She's asking, what if my website is not mobile friendly? Great question. I touched upon the importance of a mobile friendly site in terms of showing up in local search and appeasing the Google gods. If it is not, I recommend that you update your design. If you work with a current firm today, someone local or an agency, whoever it is, I recommend that you get in touch with them and see what you can do to, overhaul what you have or design something new. As I mentioned earlier, over half of searches are occurring on Google on mobile devices. And if you are not part of that mobile search, you'll be missing out on potential clients who are really relying on their smartphones and on their tablets to find businesses like yours. If I don't have any more questions, I'm going to leave it there. Again, you can check us out at broadly.com if you'd like to know more about any of the topics I covered or specific questions on your pages. Again, my email is laura@broadly.com. We will be following up with the recording of the session. So I appreciate your attendance and your participation. Have a great rest of the day, and we'll be talking to you soon. Goodbye.